Hercule Poirot, in the case of the missing heiress, Chapter 1, the enigmatic guest emerges. What's up, fam? Welcome back to another chilling chapter. Before we dive into today's twisted mystery, Hercule, in the case of the missing heiress, hit me up. What made you smile today? And where in the world are you listening from? I'm featuring your stories in the next drop, so don't be shy. Now grab your tea, dim the lights, and get ready, because nothing in Whispers in the Fog is ever what it seems. The night was suffocatingly still, as if the very air awaited a revelation cloaked in shadow. Outside, the wind howled, rattling against the window panes of the dimly lit drawing room, a haunting prelude to the unfathomable chaos that was about to unfold. A loud crash resonated through the silence, a sound so jarring that it sent a shiver down the spines of the five gathered souls who were each nursing grievances far deeper than mere discontent. In the flickering candlelight, the faces of the guests emerged from the shadows. Lord Cedric Langston, a man of wealth and intrigue, whose steely demeanor concealed a calculating mind. Lady Beatrix Fitzroy, the ambitious author whose thirst for knowledge spurred her to toe the line between inspiration and invasion, and Edward Mallow, the devoted servant who had loyally served the Langston estate for decades, his clenching fists revealing an inner turmoil unseen by the others. But it was the fourth guest, the one who had arrived mere hours earlier, that drew everyone's eye. Alexandra wore her aura mysterious and her past obscured by a veil of secrets, as though she could already sense the weight of the darkness upon them. A scream shattered the building dread, a young voice that seemed to echo off the very walls, chilling the blood of all who heard. Emanated from the corridor a brittle cry that summoned the full attention of the frightened gathering. Poirot, sitting in an armchair, stilled his thoughts as clarity washed over him like a tide reclaiming the shore. Ah, but the human heart, it hides many things, mon ami. He murmured, his gaze gliding over each attendee, noting the tension that had coiled around them like a serpentine threat. He was swift to rise, moving with elegant precision through the room, and journeyed down the corridor towards the source of the distress. As he reached the doorway, the sights and sounds revealed a harrowing scene. The lifeless body of Edward Mallow sprawled grotesquely upon the polished oak floor, a crimson stain blossoming on his white linen shirt. It was a tableau of horror, and Poirot felt a fierce intensity igniting within him, a singular determination to uncover the truth buried beneath the palpable fear. Returning to the drawing room, he surveyed the shocked expressions of the remaining guests. Murder, it appears, has invited itself to our gathering. We shall not simply sit idle. I must inquire of you all, he declared, his elegant accent punctuating the urgency of the moment. Suspicion crept into the air like a slow poison, and soon the formidable senses of Poirot ignited like a flame, drawing him closer to the truth hidden within the tapestry of their lives. In delving deeper into their stories, Poirot soon found that each guest had secrets sewn into their existence, a patchwork of desires and resentments that tinged their every interaction. Lord Cedric, it appeared, had been entangled in a web of questionable investments, his financial ruin a haunting specter that loomed above his affluent stature. Meanwhile, Lady Beatrice nursed an obsession with Edward, a man who had offered her insights into the lives of the wealthy she could only dream to pen within her novels. The blooming convention of authorship was mingled with whispers of the forbidden, and Poirot sensed that this connection danced tantalizingly close to jealousy and betrayal. Then there was Miss Ward, the enigmatic interloper, whose charm and intellect had captivated the room. Yet Poirot could not ignore the traces of shadow upon her past. She had fled a life steeped in scandal, and the whispers of unresolved mysteries tagged along like dark echoes. Each confession only puzzled him, further layering deceit upon facade. But he would not be misled by mere appearances, as Poirot methodically questioned each guest, probing beneath the surface of their alibis. A chorus of contradictions emerged. Lord Cedric's fingers twitched when pressed about his whereabouts during the storm, while Lady Beatrix's nerves betrayed her as she stammered through her defense. Clock chimes announced the passing time, and with it came an unsettling realization. Clues were masked in misdirection, and every answer led him deeper into a contradictory maze amidst the relentless pursuit of clarity. Poirot stumbled upon a peculiar item entirely out of place. A delicate brooch glistening on the floor in juxtaposition to the chaos. It was engraved with the initials A, and his gaze narrowed in thought. Alexandra. Her hands trembled as she caught sight of it, her carefully composed facade fracturing for a brief moment. The quiet intrusion of guilt raised its voice within the chamber of doubts, as murmurs of secrets once again flitted through the room like ghostly apparitions. "Ah, the show is not yet over, I think," he stated, his voice confident, yet contemplative. An undercurrent of tension charged the air as Poirot's intuition flashed. He had yet to reveal the depths of duplicity hidden in plain sight, and the mystery of the brooch invited further inquiry. With a slight smile, the celebrated detective intended to delve deeper into not only the clues unveiled before him, but the enigmatic relationships, betraying longer histories and hidden motives at play. Each character was a web of ambitions and fears, and as the storm surged beyond the windows, Poirot felt Sybil Vaux's ancient words echo in his mind. A betrayal can emerge from the unlikeliest of sources. As midnight approached and the candlelight flickered ominously, Poirot gathered them all. In the drawing room, once more heart pounding with revelations, waiting to burst forth. The truth, my friends, is like the storm outside. It can rage unabated, but in time it shall reveal all. When the final twist unraveled before them, it would bind not only their fates, but all the threads of lies that had stitched this dark tapestry together. The hour was late, but time, like the ghosts of deceits past, was not on anyone's side. Only horror stood between them and the maddening enigma they called life. A silent promise formed within him. He would not rest until the hidden tapestry was unpicked and the threads of darkness knotted to justice revealed. Chapter 2. A Glimmer of Hope. The storm shrieked like a wounded beast, rain pounding against the windows as an eerie silence enveloped the drawing room, suffocating the atmosphere. In that oppressive stillness, Hercule Poirot felt a tremor of unease ripple through the air, sharper than the gusts lashing the house's exterior. He had assembled the guests once more, their faces pale and troubled, yet he could sense that somewhere amidst the secrets they all kept, a glimmer of hope flickered, a truth waiting to be unveiled. Beneath layers of malevolence, Lord Cedric Langston stood by the fireplace, his hands trembling slightly as he stared into the dancing flames, a charred representation of his own crumbling empire, his brow furrowed in thought, revealing the multifaceted man hidden beneath his veneer of wealth. We will not crumble into chaos. Not when the truth remains unwritten. He murmured, though whether he was trying to reassure himself or his fellow guests was unclear. Lady Beatrix Fitzroy, her ink-stained fingers fidgeting with the sleeves of her dress, snapped her gaze to Cedric. "Is that what you tell yourself, my lord, or have your own insecurities led you to this reckless facade?" Her words, harsh, yet laced with a hint of uncertainty, sent a ripple of attention through the room, igniting the veiled animosities among the group. Like the red-hot embers of the fireplace, amidst their conflict, Alexander Ward sat poised, her face obscured by shadows that flickered in the candlelight. A brooch, a glimmering piece of evidence, lay abandoned on the table, its engraved initials stark against the stormy backdrop. She had noticed the way Poirot had studied her when he discovered the brooch, but she hadn't expected to feel the weight of suspicion settle upon her. Perhaps this blight upon our evening calls for investigation rather an accusation, dear friends, she suggested, her voice smooth yet taut with the fragile strands of her carefully crafted facade. Poirot observed them all closely, each movement, each hesitation. "Ah, but the human heart, it hides many things, mon ami," he uttered quietly as he prepared to navigate the labyrinth of emotion surrounding them. He began his inquiries, his words delicately probing yet strikingly incisive. As he moved between them, observing their reactions, he could see small truths glimmer behind their masks, acting as though each inquiry was a step on a treacherous slope. Poirot directed his attention to Lord Cedric first. "My lord, tell me, what was the last conversation you had with Mr. Mullo?" Before this dreadful occurrence voice was calm yet authoritative. Cedric's lips thinned, a flash of anger igniting in his eyes. "It was nothing of consequence, merely about estate matters." I had no reason to heed his words. He was but a servant. But Poirot noted the twitch of Cedric's fingers, the way he avoided permanent sin. His gaze there, it was a denial wrapped in discomfort. Yet one could argue a servant possesses insights into the lives of their masters. "Is that not so?" Poirot pressed the words slicing through the air with precision as they wound through the web of Havre. Interrogation. Lady Beatrice revealed the depths of her obsession with the deceased. "He was a source of inspiration, you see," she stammered, attempting to keep her composure. "His tales of the affluent and their hidden lives fueled my writings, but perhaps I was too engrossed in my pursuit." Her voice trailed off as the implications settled over them like the thick fog outside. Poirot noted the subtle tremors in her voice, the way her shield of ambition cracked, revealing the jealousy that clung to her like an ill-fitted garment. "A complex relationship indeed, where inspiration intertwines with betrayal," he stated, allowing the weight of his words to linger in the charged atmosphere while gliding towards Alexandra next. Poirot inhaled deeply, as though expecting the jasmine waft of her perfume to reveal concealed truths. "And you, Miss Ward, what was your connection to Edward Mullo? You arrived so fortuitously. Do the fates smile upon you?" Her poised answer came forth only after a painful silence. "I barely knew him, Monsieur Poirot, merely a fleeting encounter in the shadowed corners of life," she replied, with a slight inflection in her tone betrayed a shroud of unease. Within, Poirot studied her eyes, closely recognizing the falter within her steadfast visage. Just as Poirot began to weave these confessions into a coherent narrative, the storm outside escalated, casting flickering shadows that danced upon the walls, and the incessant ticking of the clock hummed ominously in the background, marking the drumming heart of despair in the room. A flash of inspiration struck Poirot as he recalled the brooch, a delicate familial semblance. Amid chaos, the evening bore down mercilessly as he took the risk of turning their attention back to it. "May I assist in returning this item to the owner?" He observed their faces, searching for the telltale signs of recognition. Both Lady Beatrice and Cedric flinched, but Alexandra stiffened at the mention of it. "That belonged to my mother," she whispered, her voice barely piercing the clanging of the storm. Outside further, wrapping the room in intrigue. "It was lost during our flight from scandal." The sudden vulnerability made her seem more human, a glimmer of hope amid the depths of deception. Yet Poirot sensed a rift and undercurrent of revelation that tangled through the fabric of their exchanges. By the time the hour grew late, he gathered them once more, their expressions a mixture of weariness and apprehension, using the weight of silence to his advantage. Poirot spoke with deliberation. "My dear friends, the truth is but a stone cast into a mirrored lake. It will ripple outward, revealing all beneath the surface." At that moment, he unveiled the two layers of deceit. "It was you, Lady Beatrice, who pushed Edward too far in your desperate quest for inspiration. Your discontent drove you to violence in a moment of heated jealousy, believing his affection was aimed elsewhere." Gas filled the room, but Poirot held up a hand, cutting through the chaos. "Yet I could never have anticipated that his death was but a cruel distraction to conceal a much darker reality. Miss Ward, you were not merely an innocent bystander, but armed with a secret that tied deeply to the Langston name." The silence that hung heavily in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. Poirot's gaze locked onto Alexandra as the realization dawned. Her mother's scandal had interlinked with the very fabric of Lord Cedric's legacy, a web spun from long-held secrets ready to ensnare them all. through your connection. You did not arrive by chance, but with intent to rectify a wrong buried deep in the history of this estate. The wind moaned outside, echoing the raw emotion swirling inside the room as Poirot concluded, his voice resonating through the tension like a stroke of thunder. In the end, betrayal lies not only in acts of violence, but in the shadows we allowed to cloud our understanding of the ones we love. Now the storm without mirrors. That which is within, let us hope it washes away the sins of the past. As he paused, the weight of his revelation sunk, leaving a stark truth resting heavily upon the gathered souls. The glimmer of hope that had ushered forth was shrouded by shadowed realities far darker than they had understood, leaving them each bearing the burdens of secrets too heavy to recount. Chapter 3, Shadows of Deception. The candlelight barely held back the encroaching darkness that seemed to pulse with the rhythm of the storm outside. Chilling screams shattered the oppressive silence, the sound echoing through the cavernous halls of Langston Manor. Hercule Poirot rose to his feet, his heart quickening as he dashed toward the sound, the elegant lines of his tailored suit barely stirring as he navigated the chaos. Shadows flickered ominously on the walls, morphing into grotesque shapes as the air thickened with an unspeakable dread. In the drawing room, the sight before him froze Poirot in place, there lying motionless. On the grand oak floor was Alexandra Ward, her once present composure now undone, an insignia of fear and despair etched across her pale face. The brooch he had returned to her earlier lay askew against her collar, stained with crimson droplets that darkly contrasted against the fabric of her dress. Her eyes, wide with shock, seemed to capture the flickering flames of the nearby fire as they taunted him with unanswered questions. The sudden gathering of his companions, drawn by the unforeseen calamity, stirred a tempest of emotions. Lord Cedric Langston stood rooted at the threshold, clenching his jaw, the fury mingling with fear upon his aristocratic features. Lady Beatrix's expressive hands trembled at her sides, her eyes wide and fearful, flicking back and forth like ships lost at sea. Each soul bore the weight of their history, now entwined in a horrific tableau as Poirot's mind raced with possibilities. Ah, but the human heart, it hides many things. Mon ami, he murmured softly to himself, his emerald eyes narrowing as he surveyed the scene. Poirot steadied his breath, drawing upon his rigorous discipline, and engaged those gathered, each caught in the web of suspicion. My friends, we are faced with an appalling tragedy. He announced, his voice a blend of authority and gentleness. But let us not falter under the weight of fear. We must remain vigilant. He directed his gaze toward Cedric, whose face reflected a tapestry of conflicting emotions. Might you recount your whereabouts during this dreadful incident? The Lord shifted uncomfortably, his past sins flickering momentarily behind his steely facade. I was having a drink in the study, contemplating matters of the estate. He stammered, but a tremor in his voice betrayed him. Nothing more, nothing less. I could not have anticipated. His words trailed off, swallowed by the oppressive atmosphere. Lady Beatrice interjected, her voice cracked yet laced with artistic intuition. But Cedric, what of Alexandra? What if she discovered something that had frightened her? Her eyes sparkled with an unsettling mixture of horror and fascination, as if Alexandra's demise could fuel the narratives of her next great novel. Perhaps it was fear of revelation that brought her to this dreadful fate. The details of her response hung palpably in the air, allowing Poirot to observe the shifting dynamics of their assembled group. The agony of loss brushed against the edges of deceit, and every word spilled forth like a fragile whisper. Poirot's analytical mind, however, was already weaving a tapestry of intrigue from the threads of deception. The brooch, hastily discarded and tarnished, beckoned to him, the very emblem of a life lost and secrets buried. Ah, my dear Lady Beatrice, he said, his voice soothing yet incisive. Were you perhaps envious of Miss Ward's connection to the Langston name? Or might it be that you wished to possess her knowledge of the questionable legacy that enveloped this estate, she flinched her defiant, nature falling away to reveal the glimmer of fear in her eyes. I would never harm her. I admired her resilience, but the truth, I have spent years protecting could have led to consequences we never anticipated. Her voice turned brittle akin to the crackling flames. Before Poirot could further navigate the dark currents of suspicion, Alexandra's lifeless form caught his attention once more. He knelt down, his gloved fingers delicately tracing the contours of the brooch. It was then, amidst the flickering candle light, that the subtle scent of jasmine mingled with the coppery tang of blood reached his nostrils, igniting a spark of recognition. Mon Dieu! He breathed, recalling the perfume's signature trace lingering on Alexandra Butt. So too did he sense its echo on another, a figure moving swift yet subdued, a deliberate act cloaked in misdirection. He rose, fixing his gaze upon each suspect with meticulous scrutiny before directing his thoughts inward. Might there be a shadow behind the elegantly woven tailies of history we are so keen to protect, or is it an insatiable urge for retribution that lies beneath the surface of these illustrious facades? Acting upon instinct, Poirot turned his attention to the area near the fireplace. A picture frame lay askew upon the mantel, and an envelope barely tucked beneath it beckoned him closer. "What do we have here?" he inquired, retrieving it with careful precision. He opened the letter, the faded ink revealing secrets that intertwine lives and destinies. As he read, a deep chill coursed through his veins, and he understood the depths of the deception woven into their very foundations. As the shadows shifted ominously, he faced them all, anew suspicions crystallizing like shards of glass. You, Lady Beatrice, were not merely the muse. You were a thread in this nefarious tapestry, had forsaken your morals to protect a narrative forged through deceit. Yet even as she gasped, a shadow flickered over Cedric's face, a flicker too fleeting to grasp. And you, my lord, were not the anxious protector of the past. Your hands bore the weight of a more sinister heritage that Alexandra may have unearthed. Your empire may not crumble in chaos, but amidst the very betrayals entwined with your legacy. Poirot surmised the tension, nodding tighter in the air, with a slow, deliberate motion. Poirot reached a conclusion, but not before the damning truth cascaded forth upon the winds of fate. Ah, my friends, how cruel the winds of revelation can be. I am grieved to unveil that the unseen puppet master orchestrating this tragedy has been none other than you, Cedric Langston. Under the guise of your manservant, Edward Marlowe, he revealed, his voice echoing off the walls as realization swept the room. Like a dark wave, I had hoped to protect my legacy, my family's honor. Cedric shouted desperation, clawing at him as he stepped back. But the truth would have unraveled everything I cherished. Poirot's gaze softened, yet the flickering tempest outside bore witness to the deluge of emotions now flooding the drawing room, redefining relationships and shrouding souls in the shadows of betrayal. Indeed, the truth emerges from shadows in which we once hid, revealing our deepest vulnerabilities. Yet it is love turned to poison that brings a heart to despair. In parting, Poirot's voice resonated through the dimly lit room, echoing the truth that lay entwined within. Life, my dear friends, leads us through the labyrinth of our own making, where every lie is but a thread pulling tighter until it strangles the very essence of who we were. With a final bow of his head, he left them ensnared by the shadows they had long embraced. Chapter 4. The clock strikes midnight. From the depths of the thunderous storm outside, an ethereal wail pierced the night. Clamoring against the walls of Langston Manor, the wind howled as if mourning the very fabric of their discord. Shadows danced grotesquely across the walls generated by the flickering candlelight, adding to the sinister atmosphere enveloping the mansion. In that unsettling moment, clock chimes resonated 12, deliberate tolls echoing through the hallways, reverberating not just with the passage of time, but with the palpable dread that pulsed among the gathered souls. But none could grasp the true depth of the peril incubating within their midst, Hercule Poirot stood, his emerald eyes narrowing, as he contemplated the intricate web of deceit spun around him. Ah, but the human heart, it hides many things, mon ami. He muttered to himself, acknowledging the darkness at play, as the candle flames flickered wildly, a dance ignited by the storm. His keen intellect absorbed every detail surrounding him. The disarray of the room reflected not merely the chaos of the present, but the deep-seated darkness that stirred within. Each creak of the floorboards, each gust of air, carried whispers of secrets, long-buried secrets demanding revelation. In the dim light, Lord Cedric Langston stood before the fireplace, his countenance pale under the weight of guilt. The anguish in his eyes bespoke a man who had concealed more than he could bear, while his Lady Beatrice trembled near him, her restless fingers weaving through her luxurious hair in a futile bid for composure. The once cordial air of the manor had morphed into a tempest of accusation, her artistic sensibility now twisting in a tempest of unease. Meanwhile, the third figure, John Merryweather, Cedric's trusted adviser, hovered in the background, his face shrouded in tension and uncertainty. A former art dealer, known to have frequented high society, John had been seen conferring with Alexandra Ward just days before her demise in associations that piqued Poirot's interest as the clock struck midnight. The atmosphere thickened, suffused with a sense of foreboding. My friends, Poirot began, his authoritative yet gentle tone cutting through the tension. We find ourselves at a pivotal juncture. In the face of such treachery, we must embrace clarity, unravel the threads that bind our fates together. With poised elegance, Poirot swept his gaze across the room, assessing the quivering figures before him. Lord Cedric, might you illuminate your whereabouts in the moments leading to Alexandra's tragic? And Poirot inquired, his voice measured. Cedric shifted his posture, betraying hesitation. I was in my study, contemplating the state of my affairs. I neither knew of, nor could have foreseen such a tragedy befalling her. But what of the urgency of her presence here? Lady Beatrice interjected, her curiosity morphing into a desperate fervor. Perhaps she dared to unearth a truth you wished to remain buried, Cedric. Could her relentless search for inspiration have led to her peril? A flicker of anxiety flitted across Cedric's face, but before he could respond, Poirot turned his attention to John Merryweather. And you, Miss Merryweather, what was your connection to Miss Ward? I believe perhaps you sought her counsel on the estate's history, not merely out of academic interest. John's jaw tightened, glancing furtively between the two noble occupants. I was merely advising her on her work, her book on the Langston legacy, he stammered. Yet the nervousness underlying his words echoed loudly in the room. Poirot's discerning gaze deepened, noticing the subtle telltale tremor in Jay's fingers as he fumbled with the cuff of his shirt. With a measured step, Poirot approached the grand oak desk, his attention drawn to the spatter of ink beside a parchment laden with Alexandra's handwriting, a most intriguing detail. He murmured, lifting an elegant feather quill and examining it closely. Ink, my dear friends, is often more revealing than one would care to admit. Might I propose that she was not merely working on a narrative? A secret could have thrived instead. Intrigued gasps escaped the trio, yet there remained a cloud of deception muffling the truth. As the evening deepened, Poirot pressed further, continually peeling back the layers of this dark fabric woven by the hands of betrayal. Throughout his inquiries, he detected flickers of anxiety, subtle gestures that belied their bluster. Beatrix's every gesture was a desperate attempt to redirect suspicion. Cedric's eyes betrayed guilt intertwined with fear. John's assurances grew more frantic as he spoke of art and legacy. Yet as these revelations unfolded, Poirot's astute senses detected a secondary wind, an inconceivable contradiction weaving through the hallways of Langston Manor. The true revelation struck Poirot like lightning. The brooch stained crimson lay in wait, concealed under the chaotic layers of motives. He turned his attention back to Cedric, the intentionality of his demeanor standing stark against the chaotic undercurrent surrounding him, in the depths of despair, Poirot started, his voice resonating. It is often the hand closest to our heart that bears the sharpest dagger. A character so entwined in deception cannot disguise their own meaning less than a heartbeat away. And you, Cedric, stand on the precipice of jealousy. Was it Alexandra's breath of fresh air in this estate that embittered you? Or was it her discovery of your mother's shameful affair that made you desperate enough to silence her Poirot's incisive tone unraveled? Cedric's defenses revealing the truth. A tumultuous betrayal of the trust they all shared. No, no. Cedric sputtered, attempting to find footing amidst his unraveling narrative. I had no intentions, but she would have uncovered everything. I never meant for anything to happen. With a swift flourish, Poirot snatched the parchment from the desk, deciphering. Alexandra's last words written in her impassioned script. Ah, but the ticking clock dismantles even the most fervent wills. These words speak of a darkness thrumming behind familial ties, a layer of enmity that danced along the edge of blood, a gasp. Erupted from Lady Beatrice, her artistry tainted with panicked realization. But the affair, what if it was not? Cedric alone would if John had motives entwined with both legacy and ambition, but amidst the chaos of revelations, woe's mind entwined. The threads of betrayal with acute clarity, mon ami, he declared a crushing truth dawning upon him. You, John Merryweather, conspired to protect a Yoy legacy of your own founding, driven by ambition that bound you to Lady Beatrix's narratives and sensibilities. The truth you sought to endure in alliance mirrored in deception. As understanding settled heavily upon them, the final blows of betrayal struck like thunder. The crescendo of chaos culminated in a forgotten truth, one that exposed the very fiber of their relationships. The storm outside peaked, rattling the windows, as Poirot turned toward his antagonists, and with betrayal, dear friends. Life leaves us with shards of our broken dreams, reflecting the haunting need for redemption. A fate perhaps unearned. In that moment, with the shadows of their collective transgressions closing in, Poirot left them ends, snared in the labyrinthine echoes of their lives. A final truth delivered with grim finality. The intricate dance of deception is oft-cloaked in the rapture of self-love. But in the end, it is the heart bridled by greed that pays the price. The clock strikes midnight for us all. Chapter 5. The Portrait of Betrayal. The storm raged outside, a cacophony of thunder and rain that masked the murmurs of fear rising within. Langston Manor lightning illuminated the drawing room for a brief electric moment, casting eerie shadows that twisted across the faces of the assembled guests. Hercule, however, remained undeterred by the tempest. A calm lighthouse amid a sea of turmoil, his emerald gaze moved between the three figures before him, each inscribed with their ochre truths, yet shrouded in veils of deceit. Ah, but the human heart, it hides many things, mon ami. He mused, observing the palpable apprehension in the air. Eric's hands quivered, and Lady Beatrix's elegant demeanor cracked under the pressure, while John Merryweather's eyes flickered like the candle flames. It was a gathering rife with treachery. Their motives teetering on the edge of revelation, Cedric Langston, lord of the manor, eyed the family portrait hanging prominently above the fireplace, a magnificent depiction of ancestral pride. It served as both a testament to their lineage and a silent witness to the sins of the past. I cannot bear to look at it. He finally muttered, his voice strained. That painting, it possesses a truth we dare not speak. Indeed, Lord Cedric Poirot, replied, his tone assertive, yet soothing. Paintings like hearts are layered with meanings unknown to the untrained eye. The thunderclap resonated like a drum, punctuating Cedric's admission. Years of family secrets swirled within him, and grasping at the dust mote suspended in the air, he wrestled with his own demons. Alexandra was not merely an artist seeking inspiration. She stumbled upon our lineage's darkest secrets, secrets too terrible to reveal. Poirot's brow furrowed with intrigue. And yet one cannot escape the notion that it is precisely those secrets that rendered you both allies and enemies. Lady Beatrice, resplendent in her evening gown, with curls cascading like a waterfall, observed the men with an icy demeanor. You speak of secrets as if they were grotesque monsters lurking in our midst. But isn't it jealousy that fed the shadows around Alexandra? She captured what you could not. Cedric, she was destined to surpass you as the true artist in this family. Recognition flickered across Cedric's visage, entwining bitterness and sorrow. Her very presence ignited a fervor I had kept buried. Beatrice, what if she was destined to reveal something even more incriminating? I only wish to protect our legacy. Our legacy, echoed John Merriweather, the trusted advisor, his brow creasing in doubt, or your own vanity. You are more concerned with standing in her shadow than addressing the darkness within. With each accusation, Poirot surveyed the exchanges, dissecting their words with meticulous care. John, a former art dealer, flaunted connections to the elite. His flustered demeanor suggested discomfort with any scrutiny. It was merely an artistic discussion. I advised her on her work on the Langston history. He hastily proclaimed, "No ill will I assure you." But Poirot detected the small quiver in his tone. There was a cadence of truth lurking somewhere beneath layers of deception. Ah, the heart murmurs, even in silence, Miss Merriweather. A simple inquiry. What of the ink stains upon your sleeve? But the ink, it holds tales. Does it not? The room felt a silence tension tight, like a bowstring, as John fumbled with the cuff of his shirt. It is nothing, merely a coincidence. He stammered a weak reply, cloaked in the darting glances he exchanged with the others. The storm outside howled as Poirot resumed his pace. In this tapestry woven of accusations we find ourselves snared by our desires. Trust becomes a double-edged sword, and any one of us may wield it. He sensed that hidden within their exchanges lay the seeds of truth and deceptions interwoven, each character, inched in a spider's web of intent questions, loomed like shadows against the backdrop of the family portrait, their painted eyes watching them unwavering. What secrets did Alexandra glean from her inquiries? He pressed, observing Lady Beatrix for her reactions. She remained an iron-masked stoic and poised, but a fleeting gasp escaped her lips. An involuntary admission parsed through the ornate facade she held. Perhaps she uncovered the nature of your mother's affairs, the proclivities shared within the walls of this manor. A pulse of uncertainty shivered in the air, the atmosphere breathing treachery and rebellion. Suddenly another clap of thunder reverberated, marking a shift. A realization struck Poirot with clarity. Here lay his first unsought misdirection, the painting a veiled reminder not of the family's history alone, but of the underlying motives entwined with jealousy and betrayal. As the night deepened, Poirot continued his investigation, revealing layers upon layers of hairline fractures that ran through the family bond as raw and jagged as the portrait's frame. The shadows dance only under artificial light. True artistry, my friends, emerges in the chiaroscuro of truths revealed. Ours blended into an agonizing tapestry of truths and secrets, unveiling as Poirot's questions intensified. Was it that you wished to protect your reputation while silencing a rival in your heart? Could it be John that you conspired in your advisory role, fearful of being revealed as complicit in the shame of the Langston legacy? John's resolution crumbled, revealing the underpinnings of an untold ambition. No, I merely sought to preserve the integrity of what we had. His voice held a tremor, vibrating between indignation and the confession that loomed over him. By the time the candle flames flickered low, Roe knew he stood on the precipice of revelation. He gathered the trio, their faces illuminated by ghostly light. Ah, but these betrayals breathe life into nightmares. The heart, when wounded, reveals its tormentor. Witness this. It is you, Lady Beatrice, whose voice echoed with envy while toying with the art of deceit. Waves of disbelief crashed upon the assembled figures, each feeling the sting of betrayal like a blade. But no, you see. Beatrice countered, but her voice lacked the conviction. She tried to project her uncertainty, oscillating between anger and fear. You cannot hold me accountable for his actions, but the unspoken ties of love and tyranny weave through us all. Poirot declared, his tone resonating like the tolling bell of the midnight clock. You, Lady Beatrice, basked in Alexandra's brilliance, but found the only route to your own ascension through her thwarted ambitions, and it struck then the emotional twist, a reflection within the familial portrait of betrayal that manifested an unholy alliance of envy and resentment in that instant. Poirot stood tall against the rising tide of revelations, unveiling each strand of the intricate web connecting them all, and as they confronted one another, the atmosphere grew dense as shadows closed in around them. In the end, dear friends, it is but our very own hearts that usher forth betrayal and condemnation. Concluded, what we cherish we long to protect. Yet it is those affections that hold us in thrall, time unyielding, must bear witness to the complexities of our desires. And thus the clock strikes midnight for all, revealing the depths of our own darkness. With that, he stepped back, the flickering candlelight casting elongated shadows against the portrait, its painted eyes forever reflecting the haunting truths that lingered in the distance. Echoes of a betrayal writ large upon the very fabric of their legacy. Chapter 6. The Hidden Key. The moon hung low in the sky, a ghastly glare casting skeletal shadows across the weathered walls of Langston Manor. The torrential storm clamored about the estate, its fury sharp and unrelenting. It was amidst this cacophony that a scream pierced the night, echoing through the corridors like a banshee's wail, rippling through the very marrow of the house. In the drawing room, the lifeless body of John Merryweather lay sprawled upon the floor, a single crimson-stained letter-opener protruding from his chest, the heartless glimmer of the blade reflecting the chilling atmosphere around. Poirot entered the scene with the precision of a surgeon, his lean frame, drawn taut emerald eyes scanning the chaos with acute perspicity. Cedric Langston stood rigid nearby, terror etched upon his face, while Lady Beatrice gazed from the corner, her hand trembling as it clutched a satin handkerchief. What monstrous fate befell you, Mr. Merryweather? Poirot mused, stepping over the threshold. A calm lighthouse amidst their tempest of dread. Who could have committed such a vile act? Cedric's voice quacked, his eyes wide with the disbelief of a young child. He that was my friend, he had so much to live for. The passion of his denial echoed through the chamber, yet it was punctuated by a tremor of uncertainty. Lady Beatrice, however, merely blinked, her elegant demeanor unflinching. Friends are often under the flicker of candlelight. Poirot, undeterred, moved closer to the scene of the crime, his gaze methodically dissecting every minute detail. The flicker of shadows did little to obscure the truth he sought to unveil. As Poirot knelt, narrowing his focus on the blood-spattered letter-opener, an unsettling sensation enveloped him. But the human heart, it hides many things, mon ami, he murmured, tracing the edge of the weapon with a careful fingertip. The blade was of remarkable quality, a work of artistry akin to that of the family portrait above the mantel. This weapon, it speaks of intimacy. One does not take the time to choose such a piece lightly. The storm rumbled as if in agreement, but there was no time for idle thoughts. Poirot rose, addressing the pairs of eyes wide with fear. Someone here bore the heart to hide a key to both a locked room and a locked heart. Their reactions were muted, yet a ripple coursed through the atmosphere, as if strangers stood before one another, shattering the veneer of trust long assumed. Acting as the storm rolled ominously outside, Poirot began his investigation, pacing the perimeter. He intently observed each character, the twitch of Cedric's brow, the way Lady Beatrix's fingers tightened around her handkerchief. It was the minutiae in their actions that betrayed their true inclinations. He paused before Cedric, observing him with a cool precision. Tell me, my friend, what discussion marked the last moment you shared with Mr. Merryweather? He spoke of reclamation. Cedric began, a tremor in his otherwise steady tone. Reclamation of the legacy of the truth, obscured. He had ideas that threatened to unravel all we held dear. The feverish glint in his eye suggested not merely a protective impulse, but a selfish ambition lurking beneath his grief. Indeed. Pugh's eyes narrowed as he turned back to Lady Beatrix, gauging her temperament. And you, madame, what sentiments bounce between you and Mr. Merryweather? Surely you do not disregard your artist's touch upon this chaotic canvas. Her lips curled in a subtle sardonic mirth. Oh, how excellent a hobby for men, a game of blood and blame. But tell me, Poirot, are you so certain that the affairs of art and family do not intermingle easily with dark desires? Her retort hung palpably a thread of truth tinged with malice as he continued his inquiries. Hugo turned his shrewd attention to the lingering figure of Horace Dalton, the family's distant cousin who resided at the manor under dubious circumstances. A former artist scorned by his own creativity, Horace, with his disheveled hair and ink-stained garb, stood near the doorway, an uninvited specter lurking amidst the burgeoning tension. You know well how to mask your resentment, Horace, Poirot said, his voice slicing through the uncertainty. But what do you conceal behind that placid facade? You mistake me, Poirot, Horace stammered, shifting uncomfortably. I had no quarrel with John, nor would I. The storm, it clouds the mind. Perhaps Johann's was merely a poorly drawn shadow on my canvas. He backed away, shadows cast by stormy lightning outlining his form, a portrait of guilt and fear. As the night unfolded, Poirot harvested revelations amidst the unsteady grounds of their testimonies. Each character bore their intrigues, enveloping the atmosphere in layers of deception. He maneuvered through their parries and thrusts. The undercurrent of their emotions resonated, but amid the chaos a key began to reveal itself, one measured more than mere physicality. When the curtain of night lifted, Poirot called the three together within the drawing-room, illuminated by the flickering sighs of the dying candles, shadows flickering like ghostly dance partners. My friends, the key to this mystery lies within your own hearts, intertwined in a traitorous embrace. He watched as Lady Beatrix's facade cracked. Cedric's eyes narrowed with rage, and Horace's fear morphed into anger. Cleansing breaths filled the air. Poirot cemented the gathering's essence. You see, the specter of jealousy looms larger than the disgraced artist amongst you. An artist's light cast shadows upon ego-driven souls, while Vera's pen carried the weight of your family's many sins. The realization that uncertainty eluded him struck suddenly. There lay a hidden truth beyond the tale he spun. To obscure it, the sharp twist of revelation unfolded. As he connected every thread, each character orchestrated a ballet of deceit. The red herring, a crucial pointer towards Horace's artistic envy, took the E-stage, but then a shrouded truth obliterated the simple idea of guilt. As Poirot aligned the pieces, the revelation was far graver, with Celeste's legacy haunted by betrayal. The key lay in Cedric's harbored ambition, the letter opener an instrument not of disdain, but desperation. The heart, when wounded, reveals its tormentor, Poirot continued. In an act of perilous passion, you sewed your own fabric of despair. Through that act of betrayal, Cedric, face and ashen, mask, fell to his knees, stricken by the truth within him that now lay bare for all to witness. With a quiet finality, Poirot turned from the trio, their anguished faces oozing regret. And as the clock strikes midnight, therein lies the unending cycle of darkness born of desire, the hidden key forever grasped in the clenched fists of your own hearts, each heartbeat a pulse of betrayal, each yearning a wound deeper than the last. In the shadows thickening, the room left them to grapple with the profound weight of their indiscretions, no longer mere suspects entwined within his narrative, but architects of their own. Undoing, the storm raged on the haunting echoes of the night. Resolute as he stepped back into the night, leaving behind the stricken faces, trailing the lingering bitterness of consequence. Chapter 7. A Web of Lies. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth, as a lightning bolt cleaved the sky, illuminating the myriad of old portraits hung in Langston Manor. Beneath their scrutinizing gases, a single shot rang out, shattering the oppressive silence of the night. The room stood frozen, Then came the sound and echoing thud as a lifeless body crumpled to the floor, a dark pool of crimson forming beneath the figure. Horace Dalton lay sprawled, his disordered hair a stark contrast to the polished floorboards. As his ink-stained hands remained open in futile surrender, the very image of sudden defeat, Hercule Poirot drifted into the drawing room, drawn by the sudden chaos that reshaped the once tranquil atmosphere of the manor. He stepped delicately over, the lines drawn by fate and misfortune scanning the faces that hovered like specters in the dim candlelight. Lady Beatrix's porcelain complexion bore an eerie shade of pour, her breath coming in shallow gasps, while Cedric Langston stood by the hearth trembling. His hands gripped the mantelpiece, as though the very structure of the castle could anchor his wavering courage. Then there was Alexandra Merryweather, a Urawan fierce gaze, pulling with determination, her arms defensively crossed, a desperate shield against the storm of emotions swirling around her. Ah, but the human heart, Poirot said quietly, taking a moment to absorb the ambience, thick with accusations and concealed fears. It hides many things, mon ami. Indeed it does, he observed. The scene as a painter would scrutinize his canvas, each detail a brushstroke contributing to a larger picture of despair and treachery. Murdered by whom? Cedric gasped, barely able to form a complete thought. Horace was an artist, the enigmatic spirit of this family. Who could commit such a crime? Such emotional fervor, dear Cedric. It tells me that there lies more than mere friendship at play. Poirot's emerald eyes darted from one suspect to another, as though invisible strings were pulling their intentions into the light. The question lies not in who would commit the act, but rather who stands to gain from its grim execution. Lady Beatrice shuddered, glancing at her cousin's form, a shiver of instinct dancing through her. We were all here, dear Poirot. You must see that none of us left this room. Let us not draw hasty conclusions. Ma chérie, Poirot replied, his tone calm, but forceful, like a seasoned conductor guiding a restless orchestra. He moved through the shadows, inhaling the tension layered beneath their words, plucking the delicate strands of deception. Your alibis shall be of utmost importance. Know as the night unraveled. Poirot then turned to Alexandra Merryweather, whose sharp features reflected shadows cast by emotional turmoil. And you, mademoiselle, what thoughts transpired between you and Horace? A flicker of betrayal darted across her face, heavy with veiled memories. We were discussing business, nothing else. The family art collection. He was adamant on reclaiming what was rightfully the Merryweathers. And yet Poirot interrupted, his voice low and deliberate. What is business but a dress of another shade when clothed in the fabric of familial ambition? Perhaps there lay an undercurrent of familial rivalry as they conversed. Poirot keenly observed their movements. Cedric's brow betrayed him, twitching ever so slightly, while Lady Beatrix's fingers rhythmically twisted her handkerchief, symbols of mounting distress. Shadows deepened around them as they unwittingly sported their inner turmoil, each character a vein of instinct, yet hiding the heart of the truth. Daylight began to battle against the dark, but in Poirot's mind, darkness concealed deeper motives. The following morning, the house writer of guilt as he sat with the trio, their tension palpable against the backdrop of the sprawling estate. Ah, but there are truths obscured behind every spoken word, every glance like an intricate tapestry woven through with lies. He declared, let us thread this needle of suspicion together. Poirot, began Cedric with gritted teeth, you can't possibly think one of us would. Ah, but I do consider it. Each of you possesses the motive, the shattered emotion behind those painted smiles. Poirot adjusted his lapel, fixing his gaze on Cedric. You, my dear friend, spoke of reclamation, yet you possess deep envy towards others for having overshadowed your own brilliance. Cedric recoiled, his bottled emotions spilling forth. I did what I needed to. Horace had become a force to be reckoned with. He was no longer just a relegated cousin. With a steely calm, Poirot directed his attention back to Lady Beatrice. Your jealousy, madame, was a silent scream, a darkened canvas you painted with porcelain innocence. But you too wore a mask, did you not? Lady Beatrix's face contorted a true reflection of turmoil hidden beneath her composed exterior. A mask, yes, but what of you? You speak so sweetly. Poirot, your cunning is often laden with manipulation yourself. There is no purity amid human hearts. Poirot held her gaze unwavering. Perhaps but to shelter the darkness within is the essence of our undoing, leading to a web tangled in lies. At this moment, amidst the shadows creeping within the drawing-room, Poirot turned to Alexandra, whose bag closed tightly against her side. And you, dear Alexandra, what secrets do you hold within you? Possess the journal and letters of your husband, which were said to expose family truths. Yes, in the haze of emotion, perhaps your hand could have faltered, whether in greed or desperation. Suddenly, Alexandra's composed facade cracked, revealing vulnerability laced with resentment. I did not expect to be aligned with another's demise. I only wanted to protect my family from the tarnished truth. Then it hit Poirot like the sudden crack of thunder. Ah, it appears I have overlooked a most vital thread in this spider's web. We became so entwined with the desires of retention that we ignored the simple fabric of familial loyalty. When he unveiled the final piece, the room fell silent, the shadows wrapping around their breathless reactions. Horace's demise was not merely an act of death, dear friends, but rather an unveiling of the betrayal that lingered unaddressed. Dear Cedric, how could you, striving for approval, kill the very artist whose legacy you wished to reclaim in a moment of fierce desperation? You struck, believing it a remedy to your heart's lament. Cedric's face blanched, cracking under the weight of truth like an old brittle statue. No, it was not meant a sudden quarrel, a moment of loss. He was to take everything. Furthermore, Alexandria chimed in defensively, and you could have hidden from the truth just as we did. You are as guilty as the rest of us. Poirot surveyed the chaotic climax, his heart heavy for those who wielded the dagger of hatred, disguised as familial duty. And thus, my dear friends, you bury your own emotions behind layered deceit, all while the thread of truth weaves its way to your own undoing, as Cedric crumbled, emotions spilling like paint from a movie frame gone airy. Poirot took a step back. Remember, in the end, the heart betrays its owner in ways grander than mere words. Each heartbeat a pulse of desperation, each deed an echo of betrayal. As the storm ceased outside and shadows began to blend with dawn's first light, Poirot's steady articulation sliced through their silence with a finality that rang true. And it is this web of lies, woven by your very own hearts, that shall carry the weight of consequence, as the cost of love and ambition reveals the most heartbreaking betrayal of all. Chapter 8. The Decoy. A scream pierced the stillness of the night, shattering the fragile calm that lingered in the air. The sound echoed through the fog-swathed halls of Blackwood Manor, reverberating off the ornate walls, adorned with centuries-old portraits. Then silence descended like a heavy shroud, punctuated only by the shattering of glass as a figure stumbled into the candle-lit drawing-room, the light casting stark shadows against the blood-spattered wall behind her. Hercule Poirot, already present to discuss the aftermath of the previous night's tragic events, felt the irony clawing at the edges of his mind, yet he exuded a composure that tangled seamlessly with his acute awareness of the human condition. Ah, but the human heart, he mused inwardly. It hides many things, mon ami. The woman Lady Claros, a famed social light known for her tumultuous relationships, now stood trembling, her silken gown stained crimson, eyes wide in terror. It's Arthur," she gasped, collapsing to the ground. "He's dead, murdered." In that oppressive moment, Poirot's emerald gaze swept the room, landing upon Mr. Benjamin Hale, Lady Claris, a strange husband whose lined features twisted with an emotion that hinted at suppressed rage. A former detective himself, there was a shadow of guilt swimming in his eyes, a fleeting glimpse of motivations not entirely washed clean by their facade of grief. Then there was Eliza Thorne, a painter whose talent had long been eclipsed by Arthur's own emerging genius. She stood apart, nervously twisting a paintbrush in her fingers, her gaze darting between Clara and Benjamin. Tension wound tighter around her earnest heart like the bristles in her hand. Poirot stepped forward, his finely crafted thoughts assembling in a structure as intricate as a spider's web. Indeed, one must inquire, who could bear such bitterness to penetrate the surface of this quaint gathering? He watched as Clara's breath came in ragged gas, attempting to piece together a semblance of composure. The flickering candlelight painted her features in ethereal light and darkness, revealing the sharp angles of desperation etched deep upon her brow. Arthur was not well liked, she admitted, her voice quavering. The revelation hung heavy in the air, a whisper of tension that cut deeper than one might expect. Who had the most to gain from his demise? I wonder. Poirot's voice sliced through the chaos with a poise that belied the storm whirling in that room. Benjamin replied with a tight-lipped smile, filled with the bitterness of unspoken resentment. Gain? He was a parasite, leeching off every ounce of talent we offered. His words dripped with emotion, yet Poirot detected an undercurrent of something more. Fear, perhaps, or a desperation buried beneath layers of anger. Eliza's dark eyes glinted with an uneasy fervor. You think me a suspect? Poirot, I love the man dearly. He ignited passion in me both in art and life, but her defensive stance only served to further embroil her in suspicion. Raising the smoke of ambiguity thickened the atmosphere. Ah, Mademoiselle Love can often twist into a dark thread when intertwined with envy. Poirot uttered, the quiet elegance of his voice unwavering as he considered her. As he orchestrated his inquiries, the ambient tension tightened like a noose. There were hints Lady Clara's meticulous choice of words when pressed about her relationship with Arthur, the way Benjamin clenched and unclenched his fists, and Eliza's chest-like defensiveness, as if poised for an unseen battle. With each interaction, Poirot's mind teetered dangerously close to several false leads. Such emotional fervor reveals the heart's deep secrets, Poirot declared, taking a step closer to the tempest, swirling within them, dissecting their expressions with a surgeon's precision. Yet a glint of something unexpected caught his eye. A painter's palette on Eliza's desk smeared hues of crimson mingled with progressive strokes of vibrant colors, blending in a striking portrayal that bore an uncanny resemblance to murderous shadow dancing in the light. It is said, dear Eliza, that art imitates life, yet what do you truly depict in the succeeding hours? Poirot pieced together their narratives like fragments of a stained glass window, where each unique story cast colored light over the grim event. The rain pattered incessantly against the window panes, a dull percussion to his thoughtful musings. Clara's retrospective longing, Benjamin's pent-up anger, Eliza's fragile aspirations, all presented as necessary confessions, yet each hid a deeper layer. As the evening shadows lengthened, Poirot's brain ignited with clarity. He gathered them in the drawing-room, a very heart of this tangled narrative, the fortress of painted memories, observed by the silent portraits lining the walls. My friends, I have unraveled a thread that weaves through your hearts, he announced, observing each suspect's reaction ebb with apprehension. Arthur's murder transcends mere animosity. It speaks to the complexities of human ambition and love. He paused, letting the tension swell around him like the dark clouds over the manor. But alas, he continued, a decoy misdirects far more than the murder itself. It entraps the vengeful spirit within a web of desire. Clara, you wished to rid yourself of a man beneath whom you felt stifled. Yes, yet the claws of jealousy bear a sharper bite. Clara flinched, her facade cracking ever so slightly. I wish to be free, she confessed, tears streaming down her face, an emotional surge that illuminated the track of dark memories. But Poirot was not finished, and Eliza, he directed his focus to the painter. Your envy drove a once pure admiration into dark waters. The colors upon your palette speak the loudest. Eliza began to tremble, her confidence dissipating. It was only jealousy. I would never harm him, she cried, a fabricated plea echoing in the depths of the room. Ah, but jealousy is a bitter truth masked as passion. Yet I suspect there lies a deeper deception behind the glimmer of colors. Poirot's eyes sparkled as he pieced together the final elements. The knife that took Arthur's life. A deftly concealed art piece atop your easel, Eliza. As sharp as your emotions, the unexpected weight of betrayal began to sink in not only within Eliza's heart, but within the entirety of that dim room. Just when clarity bestowed itself upon the assembly, Poirot unveiled the true riddle behind their intertwined destinies. No, it is not the colors that paint the truth, but the blade all along wielded by your own hand. But I must confess, Eliza, your brush was not the only weapon in play. As the words unfurled, Benjamin recoiled, blood ablaze in his face. You mean to say? He stammered, the revelation striking like the very lightning that illuminated the darkness outside. Yes, Poirot confirmed, satisfaction gleaming in his eyes. The decoy was you, Benjamin. Your eye fueled by Clara and Arthur's clandestine affair, all masked as a united force. In the end, it was you who wielded the darkness, manipulating the chaos and casting Clara's hands in blood. Silent moments spiraled through the room, emotions tearing and weaving the fabric of their fates into something irreparable. As the shadows swallowed their anguished faces, Poirot uttered his final truth, profound and unyielding. Take heed, for it is not merely the act of murder that shatters lives, but the betrayal nestled deep within the human heart that wields the true weapon. A lesson stark and grave, a decoy may camouflage the act, yet the truth of betrayal ultimately blares louder than thunder through the night. Chapter 9. The Revelatory Confession. A scream shattered the silence, sharp as glass against porcelain, awakening the gloom that enveloped Blackwood Manor. Shadows danced wildly in the flickering candlelight, heralding chaos in a once stately home. From the depths of despair, Lady Clarabos emerged, her gown a canvas of crimson nearly merging with the blood that pooled like regret upon the drawing-room floor. She stood trembling and wild-eyed, truly the embodiment of terror. Amidst the remnants of splintered lives, her culprit had arrived to find a scene far more distressed than the calm facade they had shared. Not hours before, the recent murder of Arthur had reverberated deeply within the hearts of all present, each bearing the weight of their truths. And yet now, something darker loomed upon the horizon, waiting in the wings. But the human heart, it hides many things, mon ami. He pondered, silently assessing the tremors running through Clara as she gasped for breath. Poirot, you must understand. I didn't mean for this to happen. Clara stumbled over her words, confusion and guilt woven together in her speech. I only intended to confront him. The room pulsed with her frantic energy, her eyes darting towards the scattered remnants of Arthur's life, now tarnished by violence. As he observed, Clara, Poirot's keen mind caught the glint of a small bloodied shard amongst the wreckage, a fragment of a once cherished rose vest shattered beneath the storm. Tell me, mademoiselle, he inquired, his voice smooth, is it mere chance that this vase lies here, a witness perhaps to your quarrel, or something more sinister? Clara's lips tightened, her gaze flickering to the shattered glass, as if it held the key to some hidden enigma. Across the room stood Benjamin Hale, his eyes darkened with suppressed fury. I knew they were at odds, he remarked with strained calm, the lines on his face deepening as bitterness hung on his comments. A former detective himself, he bore an air of brooding intensity. Arthur was a conceited fool, a parasite draining the very essence of those around him. But I would never murder him. Eliza Thorne, the painter, lingered closely behind Benjamin. She gripped her paintbrush like a weapon, her own tumult brewing beneath the surface, questioning. Clara's integrity is easy when you know she harbored a secret wish to be rid of him. But what of you, Mr. Hale? An affair can twist the mind into dark corridors filled With shadows of rage, her tone brimmed with a rancor that revealed more than disdain. It glimmered with ambition and despair. Poirot, ever observant, sensed the turbulence swirling among them. Ah, the beauteous tapestry of the human heart unwinds further than I anticipated. Tell me, dear Eliza, is it jealousy that has propelled you towards conflict? As artist and lover, you loved him dearly. Yet there exists an insatiable hunger within you to emerge from his shadow. Her defensive posture contradicted her words, and Poirot could sense her unraveling threads, slowly breaking free from the tightly woven fabric of her persona. As the evening progressed, Poirot conducted his inquiries as a maestro guiding an orchestra through a complex sonata. Each response brought him closer to the core of the truth, even as uncertainty swirled like the tempest outside. Lady Clara, her voice trembling with tormented emotions, spoke of Arthur's cruelty, how he had turned against her, and their shared confidences wielding disdain as a weapon against her fragile spirit. He sought to manipulate my very being, she declared, fists trembling, to use my feelings against me. How splendidly tragic. Poirot interjected softly, how often our passions twist into monstrosities' ends, snaring not only ourselves, but those we hold dear. He turned his gaze towards Benjamin, scrutinizing the lines of tension set hard across his shoulders. And you, Benjamin, possess fear and bitterness entwined this murder. Could it be that you long to see Clara liberated from a cage of emotional chains, or perhaps to fell the man who has belittled you over the years? No, Benjamin retorted sharply, his irritation rising to meet Poirot's assumptions. I sought peace for Clara, yet Arthur became an impenetrable storm. I believed he could ruin her, but she must see what he has done. He was a ruthless manipulator. There was an edge to his words, revealing layers of suppressed desire. To protect Eliza's dark eyes twinkled with simmering anxiety as she glanced back and forth between them. You are all merely dancing upon the stage of misplaced accusations, cleverly disguising your own involvement. Beneath the layers of flustered bravado, Poirot discerned a flicker of guilt reflected in her eyes, an inclination that hinted at deeper connections buried beneath the surface. Patterns emerge only in the darkest of nights, murmured as he knelt to gather a closer look at the shattered vase. It is said that the act of murder can draw forth truths hidden deep within the human spirit. One must look beyond obvious motives to discern the web woven intricately amongst your souls. As the evening folded into itself, the atmosphere thickened with tension. Each heartbeat pulsated in resonance with unacknowledged fears. Poirot's inner musings began to collide, two fragmented truths, juxtaposed like delicate shards of glass in the flickering candlelight. Every character presented the facade of victimhood, each hiding layers of betrayal, and then the revelation struck him like a bolt of lightning. My friends, he finally announced, his voice steadying around the culmination of prayer and understanding. Behold the stories you have wrought with your own hearts. In the confluence of emotional currents, a single truth reveals itself. He turned to Clara, who now stood rigid torment, etching deeper lines upon her brow. You thought to absolve yourself of the relationship, yes, but your emotions turned murderous. The air shattered with the weight of his words. Clara's face turned as pale as the moonlight filtering through the window, her hand trembling against the edge of the mantel. What are you saying? Disbelief etched into her features as she recoiled from his premise. Ah, is it not true, Clara? The murder was not only born from betrayal, but a mere accident. A tumult of emotions spiraled out of control. It was you who held the shard while confronting Arthur, caught in the furious storm of those repressed feelings. Gaffes echoed through the room like whispers, carried on the wind, confusion swirling in their minds. But Poirot had not yet finished unveiling the true treachery concealed beneath their desperate facades. And yet, within this tragedy, loyal Benjamin conspired to cleanse the wound, he posited, fixating his gaze on Benjamin A. Red herring that led me astray. One who appeared as a sorrowful husband possessed by rage, but concealed your true intent in protecting Clara. Ben's composure fractured into a chasm of horror as he grasped the implications of Poirot's deductions. The Rye-or-She revelation absorbed him like a flood, now unmistakably aware of the fabric tethering them. No, I never harmed him, only intended to help. Clara escape. A darkness fell heavy upon the room, each character now mugged with their own emotional turmoil, as Poirot's words floated like a haunting refrain. In the depths of personal tragedy and ambition, it emerges. Betrayal begets only further despair. The art of sacrifice reveals not the one who dies, but the one whose heart betrays its owner. A hush descended, silence lingering as they grappled with the collapse of their carefully constructed truths. The interplay of dark passions and buried animosity bound them together in a web, more intricate than any of them could ever have predicted. Poirot's emerald gaze pierced through the facade of despair, a stillness that kept them rooted in shared anguish. There is no escaping the labyrinthine webs we weave, for, in the end, it is the human heart that wields the true weapon of destruction. His words fell lingering in the air like smoke, each letter a lingering reminder of the painful revelations now etched in battered souls, forever shifting the contours of their fragile existences. Chapter 10. The final clue. The wind howled like a fie. Banshee, its mournful wail echoing through the hallowed halls of Blackwood Manor, now draped in an atmosphere of unease. Rain lashed against the windows, each drop a rhythmic reminder of the chaos that had erupted within these walls not long ago. In the flickering candlelight, Hercule Poirot stood in the drawing-room, where shadows gathered as if conspiring against the very fabric of truth. A newly discovered clue lay upon the mantel, flickering with ominous potential. A bloodied handkerchief, its intricate embroidery marred with dark stains that whispered secrets of betrayal. Ah, but the human heart, it hides many things. Mon ami Poirot mused to himself, his emerald eyes glinting with determination. This was more than a mystery now. It was a labyrinth of lies and deceptions that drew him deeper with every moment spent in this foreboding abode. As he turned to face the remaining guests, he could feel the weight of their fear pressing upon him, tangible as the storm outside. Each faced him with anxious expressions, the remnants of their fractured truths flickering in their gazes like the flames that danced erratically. In their candle holders, Benjamin Hale, his face pale and strained, shifted nervously by the fireplace, his once assured demeanor fright at the edges. That handkerchief, he stammered, his voice low, it belonged to Arthur, but surely it cannot implicate me. His voice faltered under Piu's scrutinizing gaze, every unease carved into his tense posture telling a story of its own. Eliza Thorne, the tortured artist, stood nearby, clutching her paintbrush as if it could ward off the gathering storm of accusations. Benjamin is a good man, she insisted vehemently, her dark eyes darting to the handkerchief with something akin to recognition. Whatever the truth is, it lies beyond mere fabric and blood. But did that notion cover the turmoil that simmered beneath her artistic facade? Poirot sensed layers of artistry, woven alongside devotion and bitterness, a contradiction that curled tightly like a vine. Meanwhile, Lady Claros leaned against the wall, her composure shattered, now a mere wraith of the woman once radiant with ambition and desire. This is a senseless accusation, she exclaimed, her voice trembling. I cannot. She choked on her words, her composure vanishing as the shadows that conspired around her. I would not harm Arthur. I only sought resolution. Yet her passionate denial masked something deeper, a conflict stewing beneath the surface of her anguish. Ah, but do we not all harbor desires born of despair? Poirot said, his tone calm, yet probing. He approached the handkerchief, picking it up carefully, as if it were a delicate flower, its scent mingling with the memories of violence. The stain, my friends, is one of guilt, a mark so often entwined with love. Can it be that Arthur, the man who held sway over your hearts, has drawn forth both your affections and your wrath as he meticulously examined the fabric? The air grew thick with tension. Mademoiselle Eliza Poirot began turning his attention to her with an intent gaze. What can you tell me of your relationship with Arthur? He occupied a place in your life that seemed to exceed the bounds of mere admiration. Was there perhaps an ambition entwined with your artistry, a darker current threading through the tapestry of your existence? Eliza's sharp intake of breath betrayed her involuntary admission of the passions concealed behind her words. I painted him as I saw him, neither saint nor sinner, but to say I wished him harm. She paused, her complexion shifting as memories danced upon her tongue, the shadows teasing forth suppressed truths. Indeed, there exists a tempest of emotions, mademoiselle. He replied smoothly, noting how her pride veiled her fear. You coveted not only the man, but the pedestal upon which he stood. Yet your passion also revealed your vulnerability. Does it not? The subtle accusation hung heavily in the room, brewing conflict amongst them all, with dark thoughts swirling in the shadows. Poirot turned towards Benjamin once more. And you, my friend, a thwarted protector dangerously entwined in Clara's world. Your bitterness towards Arthur nearly transforms into something else, a ferocity fueled by your own impotence. It is a dangerous cocktail when one's desires twist against the very fabric of their loyalty. Benjamin clenched his fists, a storm brewing within his chest as his voice rose in anguish. I only intended to safeguard Clara Arthur's influence, was poisoning her spirit. I would never. His voice broke under the weight of his own despair, the truth of his intentions surfacing in a deluge of confession. Ah, mon ami, Poirot interjected sharply, caressing the bloodied handkerchief with fingers that trembled not merely from emotion, but from the shifting winds of clarity. But your righteousness hides something else entirely, a desperation that could just as easily morph into fury. The room dissolved into silence, a tableau of despair where glances turned accusatory. Poirot surveyed their faces, intricately woven layers of anguish, mapping the emotional landscape laid bare before him. It was then he withdrew a small object from the folds of his coat, a compact mirror tarnished, but unmistakably engraved with Clara's initials. Each character gasped in disbelief, suspicion, rising like a tide. Clara, he uttered slowly, allowing his words the weight of revelation. Your mirror, which you claimed lost. We found it indeed, yet in Arthur's lifeblood it has soaked a relic of contention, caught between those who loved and those who fell short. This handkerchief kept close in a moment of strife. You could not summon the strength to confess, no matter the intention. Clara palled visibly, yet her eyes burned with defiance. I only meant to confront him, I had not. But her obstinacy faltered as Poirot continued his reasoning, resonating within the scab of her lingering anguish. Indeed, Clara, but accidents arise in moments of passionate conflict. Passions flared that night, did they not? The final clash between hope and despair erupted as a distraction carried you away, to see Arthur once and for all, and in that maelstrom the blood led not merely to him, but to the deepest truths carved within your very heart. Poirot turned, gathering their gazes in a final adjudication of uncertainty, and thus the true victim bound not only by death, but by the permanent scars left upon those who remain. One must look to the depths of the human spirit. The heart betrays, but it can also shield. He set the mirror upon the mantel, the last semblance of beauty tinged by sorrow. As the candle flames flickered ominously, he concluded with a hushed finality that hung heavy between them. In this tale told amidst the storm, the final clue reveals that the weapon forged from love may rend asunder more fiercely than any blade. It is here the darkness breathes eternally woven with regret. And with that, the storm outside echoed the tumult within, leaving the inhabitants of Blackwood Manor to grapple with shadows birthed by betrayal, entwined forever with the sharp resounding truths of the human heart. Chapter 11. The Confrontation. An unearthly shriek echoed through the corridors of Blackwood Manor, a sound torn from the bowels of despair. The storm outside lashed down with a ferocity akin to the tumult within, drenching the air with tension, as if it wished to drown the very secrets that lingered in the shadows. Candlelight flickered with a nervous tremor, casting grotesque dancing shapes across the walls, as Hercule Poirot surveyed the gathering of souls tethered by guilt and unveiled truths. In the drawing room, the atmosphere was thick with unsaid accusations palpable as the rain. Tapping against the window panes, Lady Claravos stood rigidly, her porcelain skin contrasting sharply with the darkened corners of the room. Benjamin Hale shifted uneasily beside her, his brow furrowed in an expression. Taut with anguish, Eliza Thorne, clutching her paintbrush like a talisman, wore a mask of artistic resolve that barely concealed the storm of emotions brewing within her. Poirot, ever astute and composed, took a step closer to the trio, his emerald eyes capturing every minute detail. Ah, but the human heart, it hides many things. Mon ami, he remarked softly, his gaze darting between them, discerning truths woven alongside fabrications. Tell me, dear Clara, what did you perceive that night? For there lies a chasm of darkness between confrontation and catastrophe. Her voice trembled. Like the candle flames, I only sought clarity to confront Arthur about his intentions with me, to understand why our futures had been entwined in such agony. A flicker of disappointment crossed Poirot's features. Is that truly all? He pressed gently, sensing a depth of turmoil unexpressed. Your relationship with him was complex. Was it not one brimming with desire, yet haunted by betrayal? Before she could respond, Benjamin interjected. Clara, do not feel compelled to explain yourself. You owe him nothing. His anxiety combusted into defense, revealing the layers of turmoil beneath his gallant facade. Poirot raised a hand to silence him, an elegant gesture that commanded attention. Nay, dear Benjamin, we must untangle this web carefully, lest we fall further into the mire. His gaze sharpened, moving to Eliza. And you, mademoiselle the artist, with a fervent heart, what say you of your history with Arthur? Eliza appeared taken aback, her dark eyes shifting, as though grappling with the weight of acknowledgment and guilt. Entwined together, he was my muse, my curse, she admitted through gritted teeth, her voice barely a whisper. To want him was to be torn between ambition and moral conflict. Poirot nodded, thoughtfully sensing another layer of deception buried deep within. Your admiration surely must have sparked envy, particularly towards Clara's affections. An artist's heart at odds often jukes the line toward discouraged impulse. As the storm raged outside each character, appeared cast adrift, flailing in their emotional tempest, until Poirot's sharp, analytical mind pointed them toward the truth hidden beneath the surface. The handkerchief remained an ominous reminder of darker secrets, waiting to be uncovered, and it danced tauntingly in clarity as a bloodied anchor to their past. It was then that a sudden crash echoed through the estate, shattering glass resonated like a violent clap of thunder. A dark shadow flitted past the drawing-room door, sending every heart racing. Poirot, unfazed, stepped toward the source of disc, his senses heightened, and the others followed closely, trepidation etched into their expressions. Upon reaching the study, they discovered a scene that sparked panic in their hearts. The safety glass of the previous night's confrontation lay in shards, but more haunting still was the figure hunched over a desk, a glint of silver illuminating the room. The visage of Arthur Voss, shockingly alive, but still cloaked in the draped veil of deception. His eyes were haunted, reflecting both relief and terror as he glanced at his audience. Poirot, he stuttered, trembling. I thought I was done, for Clara was supposed to. The confession was abruptly cut short, as Poirot's sharp intellect began to weave through the chaos unfolding. But why, dear Arthur, why evade the consequence of your actions? Whom do you truly fear? Clara stepped forward, her voice a mixture of fury and desperation. You left me no choice, Arthur. You were spiraling out of control, making decisions to stifle our futures. I needed answers, the truth. A wave of emotions pulsed in the air, and Poirot's perceptive gaze drifted back to Benjamin and Eliza. And yet we have spun a tale thicker than mere accusation. His eyes narrowed as he formed his next conclusions. I believe I have been misled, a red herring laid to distract me as emotions swept through this tangled web of deceit. Ah, but my friend Benjamin, what hidden truths do you harbor, you wish to protect rather than destroy? Correct Benjamin's face palled his rigid posture, betraying the whirlwind of guilt beneath. No, no, of course I never dreamed of harm. His voice broke, pushing aside the semblance of composure. But I didn't know Clara would confront him like that. I only sought her safety, and therein lies. The crux, Poirot interjected, allowing the weight of his deductions to settle. Your acts of loyalty veiled deeper motivations. Might you have desired? Clara, for yourself. The room fell silent as the masks worn by each character slipped, revealing the frayed emotions they had kept closely guarded. Arthur's defensive laughter broke through, heavy with incredulity. It was all a game to you then, Benjamin, my love for Clara. Was it not worthy of protection? Suddenly Eliza's voice sliced through the air, charged with desperation. You wielded the knife of ambition against one another. Yet who amongst us remains without blood on their hands? In that moment of tension, Poirot smiled slightly, his mind working diligently. It is often the blame we place on one another that reveals our own fragility, and yet the true betrayal lies not merely in the act, but within the very soul. With a flourish, he gestured to the bloodied handkerchief and Clara's tarnished mirror. For what of those objects embedded in this tale of deception? They are merely shadows of the heart's darker truths love turned to malevolence, and thus we must confront the moral failing born from this chaos. Clara's outcry shook the walls. But I did not intend intention matters, not when intentions crumble into chaos, Poirot stated firmly. What matters is what we uncover amidst those intentions. Each character wrestled with the truth unveiled before them, a tapestry woven from threads of sacrifice and unyielding desire. Poirot advanced carefully. The confrontation, my friends, was indeed both fiery and tragic. But it is only through acceptance of our darker natures that we may regain control. The love we harbor can very well become the weapon that will ensnare us all. As the storm withdrew, the emotional tempest subsided, bringing clarity. Poirot, gazing into the depths of their souls, with steely resolve delivered his final words, cooling the heat that lingered in the room. And so let it be known, the heart is its own betrayer. But in facing the darkness we create, we may find true redemption. In the aftermath, silence prevailed, echoing a haunting truth that hung in the air, binding each to a fate irrevocably altered, while the remnants of betrayal swirled like a tempest beyond. Chapter 12. The truth unveiled. The clock in Blackwood Manor chimed midnight, each resonant toll echoing like a death note through the faint whistling of the wind. Outside, the relentless storm raged, rain slashing against the windows as if nature itself sought to obscure the unspeakable truths that festered within these walls. In the dim candlelight of the drawing-room, a palpable tension hung, thick in the air, broken only by muffled sobs emanating from Eliza Thorne, who sat curled upon a settee paintbrush, trembling in her grasp as she battled the tumult within her. Betrayal is a bitter taste, Poirot mused softly, his emerald gaze fixed upon the assemblage before him. Clara's face was pale as she glanced towards the shattered remnants of the confrontation from the previous evening, while Benjamin Hale fidgeted restlessly, his eyes darting nervously between the two women as a palpable sense of fear enveloped the room. The remnants of the storm outside mirrored the chaos inside a chaos whose threads Poirot would soon weave into coherence. Ah, but my dear friends, it is not only the darkness we face. Each of you harbors shadows that dance in the recesses of your hearts. Poirot continued, his voice smooth and persuasive. Secrets lie nestled like vipers, waiting for a moment of weakness to strike. He stepped forward, eyes keenly observing each subtle shift in their postures, while the candle flames flickered, casting sinister shadows that seemed to sway with the agony of unspoken truths. Perhaps it is time, he stated, his tone suggesting an inevitable unraveling, to revisit the events of that fateful night. Clara, her hands trembling, brought forth an intricately embroidered handkerchief, a token stained with remorse and betrayal. I was only seeking an explanation, she declared defiantly, her eyes gleaming with desperation. Yet her voice quivered with an unspoken admission. Poirot raised a hand, silencing the cacophony of emotions. Ah, but you sought clarity. We yet what lurks at the heart of your pursuit was it truly only Arthur's intentions you wished to uncover or silence, spoke volumes. There was more there hidden behind the veil of her grievances. He turned now to Benjamin, whose frown deepened, wrinkling the fabric of his unyielding facade. And you, mon ami, what role do you play in this tableau? How do you dance amid such a tempest of emotions? I would protect Clara at all costs. Benjamin exclaimed each word heavy with conviction. It is Arthur who brings pain. Poirot intercepted smoothly, tilting his head slightly. But does that not beg the question of your own desires? Were you not captivated by the very essence of the distress that envelops this woman? Unhinged Eliza broke in. You speak of feelings as if they were weapons. Poirot, but truly it is ambition that leads to ruin. My affection for Arthur was a gleam of inspiration. Now it is but a shackle that binds me. She confessed, her voice trembling with an unexpected honesty, as sorrow for her lost muse seeped into every word. Poirot observed her keenly, for he perceived the tension that coiled tightly between Claire and Eliza, a rivalry forged not only in love, but in grief and regret. The storm outside intensified, clattering against the manor's tall windows, and as the candles flickered ominously, a sudden crash from the study caused all hearts to race. Shadows flitted along the corridor as the four of them ventured cautiously towards the source of the disturbance. What awaited them in the study was nothing short of shocking. Arthur Voss, pale and bloodied, lay sprawled over his own desk, a silver letter opener embedded in the woodwork beside him. He stammered, panic flickering in his eyes. I did not. His voice wavered, choking on the weight of his fear, as he glanced desperately at Claire and Benjamin amidst a scene strewn with scattered papers and open notebook filled with sketches of all who stood encircled around him. Deception dances through the air. Poirot declared an edge of urgency, threading his calm demeanor as he examined the letter opener that had carved such chaos. Indeed, the instrument of flight is often mistaken for the weapon of choice in a conflict. But who amongst you is the puppet? Master, what cries for vengeance were stilled, buried beneath regret and desire. Each character's gaze wavered under Poirot's scrutiny, and he deftly began plucking at the threads of deception, binding them. Arthur, you have been a man of many faces. Tell me, what do these sketches reveal of your relationships? And you, Eliza, perhaps you are less the muse and more the artist of this turmoil. What deep-seated anger lurked beneath your strokes? Arthur, begrudgingly focused and desperate, stuttered I. Sketched our truths, the pain we shared. It was all for the sake of art, not crime. His words lacked conviction, as Clara's gaze bore into him. Poirot sensed the fraying threads of suppressive animosity, stitching each character into a tapestry of intricate lies. In a sudden surge of courage, Clara blurted out, we all conspired in our ways. Benjamin wanted me to discard Arthur. Eliza envied my love. The dark corners of our hearts made us the instruments of our own demise. The room held its breath while Poirot's eyes shone brightly, reflecting a tumult of emotions as he considered their desperation. And yet, before he could untangle that intricate web, another revelation dislodged itself from the shadows. Yet the murder, why now? He pondered aloud, the air thick with tension. The letter opener a poor choice indeed, as it smears against your ambitions. Ah, but the further he delved into their hidden narratives, the more complications arose. In each shadowy corner of the room lingered fragments of truth. The red herring concealed a profound betrayal, one each suspect had overlooked in their indignation. As he connected the threads, a breathless silence enveloped them, until finally he voiced the sin buried deep within their intertwined fates. Clara, Benjamin. He announced, his voice almost reverent. It was never simply about love. It was jealousy and ambition twisted into one. You used the storm to veil your intentions, much like the darkness surrounding your hearts. The atmosphere shifted, crackling sharp. As Clara's eyes flared with horror, "But what of Eliza? She haunts this." No, Pooh interrupted, his voice arresting. "It was you, Clara. In seeking freedom from suffocating love, you erroneously wielded the truth as a blade, and in your pursuit to confront, you struck down the only one who saw through the layers of betrayal. In the backdrop of creeping despair, he uncovered the final twist. You were all culpable. Each held a piece of the truth, yet none could bear the weight of what that truth would unfurl." He concluded, the glimmer of despair overtaking hope. Clara's sob broke through the suffocating silence, echoing the grief of countless hearts bound by desire and betrayal. "What have I done?" The storm outside heightened, amplifying the anguished cries that reverberated within those aged walls as Poirot delivered his final words, a reminder of the grave cost of shattered intentions. In the pursuit of clarity, know this: our hearts, when entwined in the chaos of love and ambition, lead off to a reckoning more painful than death itself. In our quest for truth, let us not forsake the very essence that binds us, mon ami. As the shadows danced and the wind ceased, their howling stillness overtook Blackwood Manor, cloaking the ghosts of its past in an indelible silence. Each character bound in the web of Poirot's revelations was forever changed, their fate intertwined with the romantic tragedies that often surge when the heart in its natural state betrays its own intentions.